When you hear the words, Breaking Bad Spinoff, a singular, iconic title immediately springs to mind, doesn't it? Better Call Saul. And honestly, for every single one of us who deeply invested in the morally ambiguous, meticulously crafted universe of Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, that's entirely justified. Better Call Saul isn't just a spin-off, it's a masterpiece in its own right. It's dark, it's complex, it's exquisitely written, and it's profoundly, beautifully tragic, everything you'd expect, and more, from the minds that gave us Walter White's descent into darkness. But, what if I told you there's another Breaking Bad spin-off? One so obscure, so utterly bafflingly bad, that most devoted fans of the franchise genuinely have no idea it even exists. A forgotten anomaly lurking in the shadows of the Breaking Bad legacy, almost as if the universe itself tried to collectively suppress its memory. Today, we're going to unearth that buried secret. We're going to talk about the truly baffling, the spectacularly misguided, and ultimately, the forgotten disaster known as Slippin Jimmy. Picture this, it's 2022. Better Call Saul is in its final, glorious season, reaching unparalleled heights of critical acclaim, delivering one gut-wrenching episode after another, slowly but surely cementing its place among the pantheon of. The discourse around the show is vibrant, dissecting every frame, every nuanced performance, every tragic choice made by Jimmy McGill as he hurtles towards his Saul Goodman persona. And then, almost as an afterthought, with a whisper rather than a bang, AMC quietly, and I mean quietly, dropped a 6-episode animated prequel series on its AMC Plus streaming service. Its name: Slippin Jimmy. If your immediate reaction was a bewildered, wait, what in the name of Albuquerque is that? You are, unequivocally, not alone. In fact, you're in the vast majority of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul faithful. This cartoon, ostensibly, was meant to follow a young Jimmy McGill during his formative, pre-law school years in Cicero, Illinois. The premise, on paper, sounds intriguing, doesn't it? A glimpse into the early life of a character so rich and complex, perhaps shedding light on the origins of his con artistry, his charm, his deep-seated insecurities. Each episode, running a brief 8 to 10 minutes, was even styled after a different classic movie genre. We're talking spaghetti westerns, dark film noir, schlocky sci-fi B-movies, even a nod to silent film. On the surface, that sounds creatively ambitious, right? A novel approach to character backstory, playing with genre conventions within a beloved universe. But here's the kicker, the point where the promise of creative ambition veers sharply off the tracks and into the abyss. That, my friends, is where any semblance of prey. Because what we got, what was actually delivered to an unsuspecting public, was so far removed from the tone, the intelligence, and the very soul of the Breaking Bad universe, it felt like it had been beamed in from an entirely different dimension. Instead of offering us the emotional depth, the nuanced character development, or even a single truly meaningful piece of backstory that would illuminate Jimmy McGill's eventual tragic transformation, Slippin Jimmy decided to take a hard left turn into full-blown Saturday morning cartoon territory. And I don't mean the clever, subversive kind of Saturday morning cartoon. I mean the kind with groan-inducing slapstick gags, an inexplicable talking fish sidekick, yes, you heard that right, a talking fish, and a barrage of jokes so painfully unfunny, they wouldn't land even in a truly bad parody of a good cartoon. The humor was broad, juvenile, and frankly, insulting to the intelligence of the audience it was supposedly made for. Now, to be fair, the series did have some tangential ties to the Better Call Saul writers' room. Supposedly, some of the very talented individuals who crafted the intricate narratives and unforgettable dialogue for the live-action series were involved in Slippin Jimmy in some capacity. But whatever intangible magic, whatever alchemical process gave us layered characters, moral ambiguity, profound ethical dilemmas, and dialogue that crackled with subtext. That magic, that genius, was utterly and irrevocably lost somewhere between the initial script idea and the final animation cell. It's almost as if the very essence of the Breaking Bad universe evaporated in the ether, leaving behind only a hollow, brightly colored shell. Think about this, Jimmy McGill. The man who began as a sympathetic underdog, striving for legitimacy, battling against his own nature and the world's cynicism, only to slowly, painfully, and ultimately tragically transform into the cynical, flamboyant, and ultimately isolated criminal lawyer Saul Goodman. He is, arguably, one of the most fascinating, complex, and deeply human characters in modern television history. His journey is a masterclass in character study, a cautionary tale about ambition, self-destruction, and the erosion of morality. And in Slippin Jimmy, this monumental character, this titan of television, was reduced to a punchline. Literally. His struggles, his internal conflicts, his budding genius for manipulation, all distilled into flimsy, forgettable comedic sketches. It felt like a betrayal of the character and the journey we had so meticulously followed. Let's zoom out for a moment and remind ourselves what truly made Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul work. It wasn't just the gritty, cinematic visuals, although they were always impeccable. It wasn't just the shocking plot twists that kept us on the edge of our seats, although those were certainly memorable. What cemented these shows as cultural touchstones, what etched them into our collective consciousness, was the immense, almost unbearable emotional weight behind every single decision. Every lie, every betrayal, every act of violence, no matter how small, carried a tangible consequence, a ripple effect that resonated through the characters' lives and ours. Even the moments of dark humor, and there were many, always had a sharp edge of reality, a chilling undertone of despair, or a direct link to the escalating consequences of their actions. Humor in the Gilligan-verse was rarely, if ever, gratuitous. It was often a pressure valve, a moment of gallows humor before another plunge into darkness, or a way to highlight the absurdity of the characters' increasingly dire situations. Think of Saul Goodman's ludicrous commercials in Breaking Bad. They were funny, yes, but they also underscored his desperation, his shtick, and the ethical lines he was gleefully blurring. The humor was consequential. Slippin Jimmy, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, felt like a bizarre, disconnected fever dream. It existed in a vacuum, untethered from the established rules and emotional gravity of its parent shows. It wasn't grounded in reality, even a heightened reality. It wasn't tense, not even for a moment. And it certainly wasn't crafted with any discernible understanding of, or respect for, the audience that actually cared deeply about Jimmy's tragic fall from grace. It lacked the grit, the tension, the moral ambiguity, the very soul that defined the universe it purported to be a part of. It felt like someone had taken the idea of Saul Goodman is funny and stretched it beyond all recognition, without understanding why he was funny in the first place, or the profound sadness that underpinned his clownish facade. It was a superficial glance at a deeply complex character, offering only the broadest strokes of his Slippin Jimmy past without any of the context or depth that would make it meaningful. Imagine trying to understand Walter White's transformation by watching a cartoon about his early chemistry experiments with talking beakers. It simply wouldn't land. The medium, the tone, the storytelling approach, they were all fundamentally misaligned with the source material's core identity. Here's where the whole situation becomes even more perplexing, and frankly, a little frustrating for devoted fans. The real kicker, the historical tidbit that makes Slippin Jimmy even more baffling, is this: Better Call Saul itself almost started out as a comedy. Yes, you heard that correctly. When the idea of a Saul Goodman spin-off first came up, the original pitch was for a half-hour legal sitcom. Imagine it, Saul Goodman, cracking wise in court, perhaps a laugh track, light-hearted legal hijinks. It was a very real possibility during the early development stages. But, thankfully, Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, the brilliant minds behind this universe, had the incredible foresight, the artistic integrity, and the sheer narrative ambition to go deeper. They looked at the character of Saul Goodman, the man behind the persona, and saw something far more profound than just a comedic relief. They saw Jimmy McGill. They saw a slow-burning tragedy, a man wrestling with his conscience, his past, his desires, and his circumstances. They transformed the initial sitcom pitch into the rich, nuanced, character-driven drama that became Better Call Saul, a show that transcended its spin-off label and became a standalone masterpiece. So, given that incredible, pivotal decision to elevate the material, to imbue it with gravitas and emotional resonance, why in the world would AMC, years later, greenlight a cartoon that essentially resurrected the most superficial, sitcom-esque version of Saul Goodman, only worse, and animated? It's a question that truly makes you scratch your head. Was it a contractual obligation? A misguided attempt to appeal to a younger demographic? A desperate search for more content for their fledgling streaming service? Whatever the reason, it felt like a jarring backtrack, a step in precisely the opposite direction from the artistic triumph that Better Call Saul represented. It's almost as if some executive thought, hey, people like Saul Goodman, and animation is cheap, let's just throw something out there, without understanding why people liked Saul Goodman, or the intricate web of storytelling that made his character so compelling. It demonstrates a worrying disconnect between the creative visionaries who build these worlds and the corporate decision-makers who sometimes seem to view IP as little more than a commodity to be milked for every last drop, regardless of artistic integrity. In the end, Slippin Jimmy wasn't just a bad show. It wasn't simply a misstep. It was, in my estimation, a total, fundamental misunderstanding of what made the Breaking Bad universe special. It had the name. It had the character, loosely. It had the lore, in a very superficial sense. But it had none of the soul. None of the intricate plotting, none of the moral dilemmas, none of the character depth, none of the profound consequences that are the hallmarks of Gilligan and Gould's genius. It stands as a weird, almost embarrassing relic from an alternate timeline, a timeline where Breaking Bad perhaps became a series of light-hearted, consequence-free adventures instead of the groundbreaking, prestige drama it re. A timeline where the tragic trajectory of Walter White and Jimmy McGill was stripped of its weight and turned into a cheap gag. And honestly, it's probably for the best that most fans, even the most hardcore, deep-diving enthusiasts, don't even know this bizarre footnote in the Breaking Bad saga exists. It's a testament to the strength of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul that Slippin Jimmy couldn't tarnish their legacy. They stand tall, unblemished by this unfortunate, forgettable experiment. Its obscurity is, in a way, its most fitting legacy, a testament to how audiences and critics alike simply ignored a product that failed to understand the very essence of what made its predecessors so beloved. It serves as a stark reminder, sometimes, less is more. And sometimes, knowing when not to expand a universe, or how not to, is just as crucial as knowing how to create it in the first place. Alright, fellow residents of the Gilligan-verse. I have to ask, did you ever stumble upon Slippin Jimmy? Were you one of the rare few who actually watched an episode, and if so, what were your thoughts? Or did you, like the vast majority of us, just now learn that this bizarre piece of Breaking Bad history even happened? Let me know your reactions, your shock, your amusement, or even your secret appreciation, down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into a forgotten corner of television, or if you simply appreciate a good old-fashioned rant about a truly misguided spin-off, please don't forget to hit that glorious like button. It truly helps the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already for more critical analyses, more deep dives into the world of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and other fantastic, and not so fantastic, television. And please, share this video with your fellow TV junkies, your friends who thought they knew everything about the Breaking Bad universe. I guarantee you'll surprise a few of them. Until next time, folks, stay morally ambiguous, keep questioning everything, and may your spin-offs always be as brilliant as Better Call Saul.